When was the last time you went to page 2 of a Google search?
Hey everyone, welcome to Firefox Hot Takes, where we fan the flames of internet culture. 3 trending topics, 2 POVs. I'm Steve Flavin, and I'm here with Hannah Bouillon.
Hello! Another episode, more hot takes. I'm so excited.
We're back in. And as of now, as we're recording this episode, we are coming upon daylight saving time, which by the time this episode comes out, we will have already changed our clocks. We're in a time loop right now. We're speaking to you from the past. What's your hot take on daylight saving time? Is it fire or is it tired?
I think it's fire. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited to gain an hour.
Okay.
An hour of sleep. Come on, that's great. I'm not excited for it to get darker an hour earlier, but that's just more time to watch TV and movies after work.
That's an interesting take. I don't know. I like getting an extra hour, but I also find it so disruptive. I really do wish that we would pick one. I don't have a strong feeling about whether we stick to the spring schedule or the fall. It's like I don't know. But I don't think anyone really it seems like there's not really a consensus why we still do it.
I don't know either. All I know is that I'm ready to shift my sleep a little bit. I think it's time to lock in. I think it's time to hibernate. I think it's time to be cozy. My lock-in includes red lamp therapy, soups, and watching as many movies as I possibly can.
That sounds amazing, actually. I should follow your example, even even if it's not as chilly here in LA. Although the nights do get a little bit chilly in the wintertime. That's how it's like the LA winter, right? It's
right.
like 50
What is
degrees,
it?
which is it's very
Degrees at
cool.
6 a.m.
On that note, I don't know. I don't know if it's about a note. I'm just looking for a way to segue from there.
Yeah.
We're talking about AI again. I mean, that's the thing
Let's
that's
do it.
consuming all of us, whether you work in tech or not. It's honestly, I actually read an editorial recently just about how exhausted this writer was about how much AI has been sucking the oxygen out of the room. That is
Yeah.
can we just shut up about AI, please? Because you know, it's there's a lot of doom and gloom and then a lot of unrelenting optimism and almost no in between, and it is pretty exhausting, quite honestly. I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle where it's intriguing, there's potential, but it's also we should be critical.
And we're not living in a world where everyone's being normal in the middle.
Well, I mean, just to get right to it, OpenAI released an AI browser called ChatGPT Atlas, which just rolls right off the tongue.
ChatGPT Atlas.
We'll call it Atlas from here on out. But it is a really interesting time, actually, for the browser space. Heading into 2026, browsers are hot again. It's actually really cool to see that people are rethinking what the browser experience is and how we navigate the internet, kind of shaking that up. And that's frankly kind of interesting. And as working for a company that makes a browser, internally, we're all just kind of actually electrified by that. We've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline that's really exciting. No spoilers, but in the years to come, I would say in the next year, we've got some exciting stuff that's on the horizon. A really high level is really interesting to see the space, and the innovation that's happening right now.
It's really exciting to also see browsers be back in headlines and Firefox back in headlines.
It's like Browser Wars 2.0. We had the early browser wars in the early 2000s, which is like Internet Explorer, Netscape, and then Firefox. And now we're sort of in the AI browser wars.
We are.
It's kind of it's an intriguing place to be, and it's a little bit of the Wild West in terms of where that goes and what trends are going to stick.
It definitely feels like the Wild West in terms of the uses of AI, because I think we're heading into uncharted territory with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're talking about my parents, for example, I think it's very unlikely that they're going to switch to an AI browser, just because regardless of what age demographic you're in, when you're altering your behavior, when you're switching to a new platform, there's like a mental shift that has to happen. I'm even finding it myself at my age. Like I'm starting to get kind of set in my ways, and I'm like, "Ah, do I really
Right.
want to? It's like I've got my tabs, I got my, it's like, do I really want to relearn how to navigate the internet?
I
It is
wonder.
interesting. I never want to be the person that's like resistant of new technology. I always want to go into it with curiosity, and so
Well, and you do, and you just most recently tried out ChatGPT Atlas.
yeah, 100%. I mean, that was my immediate takeaway in experimenting with Atlas, which it was a familiar interface. I use ChatGPT a lot. And so it's like basically ChatGPT, the browser, which is implied by the name. Um, and so actually as a comparison, I just did a simple kind of use case where I was searching for Halloween costume ideas. And I'm like, help me brainstorm some Halloween costumes and like where to find them and like do some
Right.
comparisons. I had the same conversation in Atlas, and then we have a feature in Firefox called the sidebar, where we have multiple LLMs that you can choose from, including ChatGPT. And I found the functionality to be very similar, actually, where you have this LLM that's alongside of the content that you're browsing and navigating, and um, it wasn't tremendously different. The experience of
Right.
having the same, like, um, brainstorm essentially, like a shopping brainstorm for Halloween costumes, in either browser. The difference, again, that you alluded to in Firefox is that you have a choice. You don't have to use ChatGPT. There's several different options, or you could turn it off entirely. You don't have to use it. And in fact, you opt in to the sidebar. You don't have to opt out. So we don't turn it on by default. We're not forcing it on anyone. We've always believed in user choice,
Yeah.
when it comes to Firefox, and we like a free and open web. Something that is really interesting, that as we've been discussing it internally about this trend of AI browsers, is also relating to this hypothetical future of subscriptions. We talked about streaming subscriptions in the last episode. But ChatGPT like has a subscription tier. I subscribe to it because you have more features and you're
Yeah.
able to use a more sophisticated version. Is that going to become the future for browsers, where in order to unlock the most sophisticated version of the browser, you have to
Right.
subscribe? Um, it
And
kind of
is
it kind of flies in the face of a free and open web, which is something that we
yeah,
espouse, at
so
Firefox.
interesting. And I wonder if our, browsers are gonna turn into our TVs in a way where, like, you can only access certain things if you're subscribing to it, and, like, you're gonna be subscribed to all of these different LLMs for different things and different use cases, and I kind of like that Firefox right now as it stands with the sidebar is, like, you still get to choose your own free adventure.
Yeah, or not at all, and we're
Or not
still
at all.
in a traditional browser, and we've got all the features that you would expect. Something that's interesting to note in terms of the state of the state on AI browsers, we've got ChatGPT Atlas. Um, we've got Perplexity's browser, which is called Comet. Um, we've got Microsoft Edge. They run on Chromium. So, I mean, I guess there's also Chrome, and they have their own LLM, called Gemini. It's
Yeah.
hard to keep track of all the names for all
I
these
know.
things.
The names feel like they're pulled out of, like, the sky.
Yeah.
Comet,
I
Gemini.
remember Gemini because I'm a Gemini. We talked about
Yeah.
astrological signs recently, so it's like, okay, that's an easy one to remember. But the other ones is like, what are we talking about again? But literally all of those browsers are based on Chromium, which is
Yeah.
Google's open source browser engine. Um, Firefox is based on Gecko, which is our independent browser engine, and is sort of um, the last one standing in terms of a major independent browser engine. And so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is one of the reasons why, just like at first glance, you look at a lot of these browsers and they sort of look the same,
Same.
um, because they're based on the same engine. The other
Yeah.
thing, that's notable with all of these, AI powered browsers is that each of them is incentivized to use their own LLM, right? So if you're using ChatGPT's browser, you're using ChatGPT. If you're using Microsoft, Google, so on and so forth, right? And that maybe has advantages and disadvantages, but one potential disadvantage, and it's something to be really vigilant about as we go into this new AI era. In order for an LLM to be really useful to you, it sort of has to know a lot of information about you. You have to give it a lot of
Data, data,
information. You have to
data,
give it the
data,
keys
data.
to your accounts and, and I mean, to say nothing of the actual browsing data and where you actually
Right.
navigate on the internet is a little bit disturbing in terms of,
Yeah.
people just becoming accustomed to just, you know, giving away their data.
And not only are you giving away your data, you're also giving your browser permission to kind of like operate and act on your behalf, whether it's a shopping agent or workflow agent. And, you know, these LLMs are smart and they are doing a lot, but they don't have human judgment. And I think that there's a huge potential risk of like cybersecurity here. I am worried for the state of it right now as it stands about them being tricked into maybe doing harmful things with your data or revealing sensitive data. Just because we're in such uncharted territory here with this, that that is something that I just read about recently, that I read about it on The Verge, and there are just, I think a single flaw in any of these platforms and in any of these browsers could really open people up to some serious risks.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. And I think that that speaks to anxieties of regular folks who there's a trust level that hasn't really been established yet. A lot of these products, I think, appeal to early adopters and
Yes, of course.
people like us or like me who are like curious to try new things. A lot of these products, they're trying to put them out fairly quickly. They're trying to get to a minimum
Yeah,
viable product, and they're it's early days, right? I'm
yeah,
hopeful. I'm, cautiously optimistic that a lot of these concerns that we have are gonna, there's some innovation around, preempting that and addressing that. But also, we'll see what happens.
we'll see what happens. I think one thing I just want to say, and one thing that I really appreciate about being an employee at Mozilla using Firefox, is like privacy and trust has kind of always been at our core, and it's always been something we've really cared about. And so I feel really good testing out new features in Firefox. Like I love finding out what's new and nightly and kind of being able to test and learn in that regard, because I just feel like it's a good environment to do it. But it would take a lot of adoption for me to like open up a strictly agentic browser. I think that would just require some like serious, it better be a nightly before I try it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it does. Speaking of that, I mean, there is a little bit of a learning curve in terms of learning to talk to LLMs and becoming comfortable in navigating the web that way.
yeah,
I still don't quite find it intuitive.
no, and
One thing that I've observed with Atlas is that unless you literally type in the URL of the website, it's like website.com, and then you go directly to the website, it's more inclined to just give you a summary of that website, or to summarize the information that you could find on that website, which is really interesting and has huge ramifications on just the internet economy and just like if you're going to a media outlet, for instance, which is like pretty tough, in terms of sustainability, in terms of how media outlets can continue to have staff and and to operate, if people aren't visiting their website anymore, and or they're behind a paywall. Is like what does that even mean, in terms of just
yeah,
whether we still have reputable journalism. Some would argue that we don't.
that's
Um,
entirely another episode,
that's
Steve.
a whole other like rabbit hole to go
That's a
down.
different
But
series.
there's a huge risk, in terms of the availability of that content and how it's surfaced, and we have yet to see how that's going to shake out. But there's some potential there for upheaval, which some would say is good. I don't know that it would all be good. I do, I'm all about shaking up the status quo, but also
Yes,
like we
we
should
are.
try to be as thoughtful as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also just thinking about the way in which you were talking about using Atlas and the way that we were using the internet. I'm thinking like 10 years ago, you used to be able to like put in a search query and you'd get a lot of information no matter how high a quality that search was. And now it's so dependent on like, are you putting in the effort? Are you putting in the quality into what you're looking for when you're chatting with an LLM or when you are browsing with like an AI browser? And so you're not going to get as high quality results if you're not using it and putting in quality prompts. And I just think that that's an entirely different way that um, we've been using the internet, because you used to search something and get like pages and pages and pages. And I just feel like, when was the last time you went to page 2 of a Google search?
Yeah.
Not recently.
What surfaces on page one is so important, because we're just primed. We're too
Yeah.
lazy to scroll
And
past that.
we used to live in a world where I would, and maybe some people do, if you are on page 6, 7 of a Google search or any search, I want to hear about it. Um, but it used to be such a rabbit hole to be able to continue to press next page, next page. And now I'm like, why would I do that? I've got the summary right here and I've got the viable options in the first page.
Well, I mean, just to wrap up this segment, something that is notable about the new ChatGPT browser is that it's currently only available for Mac OS, whereas Firefox is multi-platform. It's the sidebar is available in both Mac OS and Windows. We've got a Shake to Summarize AI feature on the iOS version of
We do.
Firefox. So if you want to experiment with these AI tools and you already use Firefox, that's a really great accessible way to do it. Or you don't have to. You can totally just not turn them on. So just to close this out, fire or tired AI browsers in general? I'm going to say tired, but tired does not mean a fail. Tired means wake me up when they're better, right? So that's
Fully
my
agree.
hot take.
I agree. I think that it's tired, but you know what I think is fire? I think the choice is fire. I think it's nice to have a choice, and it's nice to experiment and discover things and figure out what works for you.
Great. So our final topic is actually, I don't have a lot to say about it because I will admit that I have not tried this myself. I just thought it was hilarious that Microsoft announced a new AI assistant called Mico, which is basically Clippy reincarnated. I'm so curious, Hannah, like if this transcends generations, like what's your memory of Clippy?
I did not like Clippy growing up. Clippy was annoying. Clippy was in my stuff. Looking back, I'm like, oh, I miss that guy, you know?
Well, he
Like,
shows up in memes from time to time, so he's never really died. He's like in the
thank
periphery
God.
of the dark web.
Yeah. And I just feel like Mico, ugh, Miko's so cute. I don't think Miko has a gender, but Miko is really cute. But I just know that I don't want to see Miko while I'm working.
I think this trend of like, do we learn nothing from Clippy, right? I think is the one thing. I want to say I recently saw this kind of went viral. Emma Thompson, the actress, was on a late night segment talking about AI, and she was talking about writing an email. And an assistant popped up and asked her, "Do you want to rewrite this email?" She's like, "No, I just wrote the email. Like, why do I want to rewrite something I already wrote?" And that's kind of how I feel half the time with a lot of these like AI pop-up suggestions or things that I don't really again it's like wanting to opt into things or
Yeah.
it's like about choice. I don't especially want AI to hold my hand while I'm working. I don't mind the idea of summoning it when I feel like I need an extra boost or when I do want to summarize something or rewrite something. But if I don't, like, stay out of my way.
I don't need you right now. I'll call you if I need you.
Yeah, don't call me, I'll call you. On that note, I think we've said all that we have to say about these AI topics at the moment, but I mean, there's always more to say. So if you're watching this and you have opinions, let us know what you think about all of this AI stuff. We really want to know. We're always interested in chatting about it. And in the meantime, we will see you next week. See
See you
ya.
next week.